Welcome to Back to Legacy Truths. Today we're going to be talking a little bit more about the Abomination of Desolation, how it pertains to the apocryphal texts, what we call the Maccabees, or the texts are no longer in our current version of the Bible. So stick around, we'll get into it for sure.
Wonderforest.com.
So in the Bible, it talks about the desolation of the abomination of the desolation will occur in the third temple, and of course, we talk about that. But what does it really say about what it is? Like, what is it? Is it a person going in there doing something, or is it a thing, or is it a shrine, or something being put up? And so we can kind of get into what the actual definition of it is. Well, let's get into Mark 13 here, and it says that we'll see here. Witnessing for all the nations. It's the temple destruction foretold. We know that's like the second temple when he rose up the Mount Olives. And then we're going to see here that as Jesus was rising up from the Mount of Olives, Peter and James and John and Andrew asked him privately, tell us, when shall these things be? When he talks about, this is the end times and this nature. And he says, what shall be the sign when all these things shall be fulfilled? And Jesus answered them and began to say, take heed lest any man deceive you. And we've gone over this before. And we're not to be taketh, no man shall be deceive us. But I think where it comes in here is the abomination of desolation, where we really want to get into it. And it says, but ye shall stand and see the abomination of desolation spoken by Daniel the prophet, standing where it ought not. And let him readeth understand. So they're saying, where is this abomination of desolation that, the prophet Daniel was saying, it's standing where it should not. And let's go see what Daniel says about this. I believe it's here on behalf of the approach. 20 thou shalt be despised, now I see the peaceful king of flatteries. Set up courage against the king of the south. Here we go, is where I want to get into. So this is going to be a Daniel 11, chapter 11, verse 31. All arms shall stand in his part. They shall pollute the sanctuary of strength. They shall take away the daily sacrifice. They shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. And they shall do as wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. And they understand among the people shall instruct many, ye shall fall by the sword, by the flame, by captivity, and by spoil many days. So it tells basically the abomination that make desolate. So we can get in here so let's see what the book of Maccabees has to say about the abomination of desolation. And we got to know that these apocryphal texts, they were taken out of the Bible. 1638 was when they were taken out of all Bibles. That's why we say, excuse me, we say now that they're apocryphal. That's more of a Latin term for a lie or not truth. But if you have the original, if you get a copy of the original 1611 King James Version, like the Pulpit Bible or some of that nature, it's going to have those books in there, and they're very clearly with a text like, yes, the Book of Enoch was in the Bible. It was in the original canonization. Now the Council of Nicaea, there's some dispute on that one, but they're the apocryphal text. So let's get into Maccabees. I want to see how it talks. And again, we referenced Daniel 11, 20. I think we read a little bit of that. So in the book of Maccabees, let's see what it really gets into and says about what is the abomination of desolation. It talked about some of the forbidding offerings, and so what they're talking about is sacrificing some type of something in what they used to do in the Second Temple. They used to have sacrifices, and when Titus came in, they actually sacrificed something in the temple on where they would do clean sacrifices. He did a unclean animal. And so let's go on to say, as they sacrificed to idols and profaned the Sabbath. So this is describing what the abomination of desolation is. Let's go from the very beginning. So it's First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 41 through 64. And we'll see this both ways through two different documents. Then the king wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people and all should give up their particular customs. Sounds exactly like the message being sent out today. All the Gentiles accepted the command of the king. Many, even from Israel, gladly adopted his religion. They sacrificed to idols and profaned the Sabbath. And the king sent letters by messengers to Jerusalem, to the towns of Judea. He directed them to follow customs to the strange land, to forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the sanctuary, to profane Sabbaths and festivals, to defile the sanctuary and the priests, to build altars and sacred precincts and shrines for idols, to sacrifice swine and other unclean animals. This is what we're talking about here. This is what when Daniel's talking about this is the swine and other unclean animals, and to leave their sons uncircumcised, where they are to make themselves abominable by everything unclean and profane, so that they would forget the law, or the law of the Torah, the covenant, and change all the ordinance. So let's get down here and let's get let's do the this is a little bit different. The same text, it's just in a different format here. So we see they set up altars and chapels of idols and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beast. And it goes on to say that in the self same manner wrote he who his whole kingdom appointed overseers over all the people, commanding cities of Judea to sacrifice city by city. So that's changing times. So we see that. That's interesting how man has changed God's times, and at that time they were sacrificing unclean animals in the temple at the time before they destroyed it, and so it's doing what God says for them to do at that time, and they're misconstruing and doing the exact opposite, and we can see here that it goes on to say, on the 15th day, Mount Celestial, the 100th, 45th year, they set up an abomination of desolation upon the altar. They built altars throughout the cities, and so they started setting this stuff up, and this is there was great wrath upon Israel. So this is kind of giving us a nice little overview. I don't know so much an overview, but what an actual definition of what the abomination of desolation is. And so it is the sacrificing of unclean things, things that God deems unclean. And in the third temple, we can see that this is the setting up of this. And so I hope this was instruction and help. Go ahead, like, subscribe, comment below, and definitely, like I said, God bless. Keep strong. Keep the armor of God on. And we'll see you back for another one. WonderForest.com